The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
And welcome to Project Independence and on Community Talk Radio, 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host today, Rebecca Miller, along with our co-host, Otto Lohse. How are you today, Otto?
Good morning, Rebecca. It's a nice day.
Nice chilly
nippy,
day.
Nice. Yeah, it's nice though.
Yeah, it's nice to see the sun. So
Yes.
We have a great show as usual. Christina has booked again. Very important guests, and not just because EAC is such an important agency, but because they are our, I want to say, lifelong partner with Project Independence and provide so many incredible services. And it's also Social Work Month, which is March, which Christina sent me a text like I would forget to mention that. But so, we're going to hear all about the programs and services of EAC. So our very special guests today are Mary Coyle. And Mary, you're the Senior Director for Senior Services, Nutrition, Education, and Food Services. And also we have Christine Weber. Christine Weber is a Program Coordinator for in-home and respite services. I know that, I've worked with Christine for a very long time, and Mary, you're a little newer to EAC. So, is this the first time you're on Project Independence and You?
Yes, it is. Good morning, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, and it is the first time.
So is this your first radio show or just the first time you've been on Project Independence and You?
It's my first radio show.
Okay, well,
So
welcome. We're just, we're just conversation, we're talk, and just, it's not an intense interview unless, of course, Otto starts asking, questions. So other than that,
it's also TV too, by the way.
it's also TV. It's on Zoom and social media. So all the programs are also archived. So for anyone listening, if you missed part of the show or you want to hear any of the other shows, you can always listen to, watch or listen to the programs on our archive. And we're happy to give you that information. So, of course, you also know Christina Liu. Christina is the radio show producer and every week pulls together tremendous shows with wonderful guests. So she's around. She may jump in if I miss something, but she also does Talk of the Town, which is the second hour of the program. So let's just get on with it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about EAC for those listeners who may not be familiar, and then we want to get into all the programs and services that you offer, and especially that you offer in the town, and then we can talk about the partnerships that we have with EAC as well.
Okay. So believe it or not, EAC was founded in 1969. So we're actually in our 52nd year, meaning we're a success. We last year we provided services to over 54,000 people, and that was in all 5 boroughs, and Long Island included. We're a very large organization, and some people, when you mention EAC, they're not immediately familiar, but then when you talk about Meals on Wheels and senior services, they say, "Oh yeah, I've seen the van in my area." We provide services from children and youth, family and community, right through to I believe our oldest senior at this point is 102. So from children, from birth through senior, we're, most, as you probably know, most seniors want to age in place. They want to stay in their homes.
Sure.
and be surrounded by their friends and their community. So, we provide really good services for seniors to help them age in place with dignity.
Yeah, I mean, the EAC does provide our social work aspect of Project Independence. And, of course, we work through the 311 call center. So if somebody wants to get in touch with a Project Independence social worker, which is contracted through EAC, they call 311 and Paula gets a call and then we route it to the appropriate EAC social worker. So it's a nice way to be able to access the social work services with the town of North Hempstead for seniors. And I'm curious too, and with the fact that people are living longer, because you did mention you have this, 102, 104-year-old senior. We do also have, people in the town living that long in 90s. It's not uncommon anymore. When I was a kid, we talk about this. It was uncommon, like when someone said, "Oh, my great grandparent is 90s." Now it's not, and so I'm sure you've seen, you've got now the younger seniors are still the baby boomers. So that's a big number. And the other end where people are living longer. So I'm sure you're seeing a lot of services now needed for seniors. And then, certainly throughout the pandemic too.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the pandemic was really hard for us and for the seniors. It was, we were on the ground. We never missed one day of providing a service, but it was really hard because we had to change our operations basically overnight. We went from getting hot meals at 8 hospitals all over Long Island to switching to frozen meals and chilled meals. And we had a lot of volunteers, from groups like YAI and the cerebral palsy groups, and we had to, we weren't allowed to have volunteers at the hospital anymore. So we were frantically trying to figure out what are we going to do so that people have their food and have their driver deliver the food and check on them to make sure they're okay. It was very, very difficult, but we did it.
You just made me think about something. All right, when you hear the words "Meals on Wheels," it sounds so simple. You got wheels and you got some meals, and they get delivered. How does it really start? Where does the food come from? Somebody has to cook this food, and somebody has to have the food organized. If you think about it, you just described a lot of meals.
Yes, good question, Otto. Like, for example, last year, in 2021, we provided over 180,000 meals.
Whoa.
And those meals were all frozen and chilled, and we use particular vendors. We use 2 vendors and actually 3 vendors. And we tailor the meals to meet the needs of our clients. Like, we have some kosher meals, some diabetic meals, therapeutic meals, and we use these vendors to make sure that people get the meals that they need.
Is that like, would it be like breakfast, lunch, dinner, or?
No, it would be lunch and dinner. It's assumed that the person can take care of their own breakfast, and then it would be lunch and dinner.
So two meals a day.
Yes.
7 days a week?
No, 5 days a week.
5 days.
Yeah, and actually we've just changed the level of service recently so that it's 5 meals. So it's really, we have people on the program that are getting 10 meals a week, but the new level of service is 5 meals per week. Yeah.
And you have a choice if you want it to be lunch or dinner, or?
No, you don't really have a choice. All our meals are approved by the nutritionist, so it's not like, unfortunately, we don't have it set up that somebody can say what exactly they want. because that would be just too complicated. But
Right.
we did bring on a vendor recently called Mom's Meals, where they call the person and ask them to give them a little variety. But the other two vendors that we use, we have a menu that's set, and it's a rotating menu, with different items on the menu, so that people don't get bored with it. But we don't. It's not like you can pick what you want tomorrow or next week.
Well, most of the time, we don't have a large choice either. I don't think at home. You do,
Yeah,
but you don't. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
How do you qualify?
So you have to be a Nassau County resident. You have to be 60 years or older, and you have to have impaired mobility. So, for example, you might have difficulty. You might have health conditions that make it difficult for you to prepare and cook your own meals or shop. You might have vision problems that you can't use the stove anymore, or you have arthritis in your hands. That you can't. That makes it really difficult for you to cook meals. You might have no support system. We have a lot of people who are very elderly and they have no support system. They might have a daughter in California
Hmm.
who's very involved but is not there all the time. Like we have a lot of emergency contacts that are people out of state, and so basically, if you're over 60 and you have impaired mobility, you could call and explain your circumstances, and a case manager will call you back and make a home visit, do an assessment. And the good thing about case management is it's not only about home delivered meals, but they can
Right.
link you to other services that can really help you and improve your quality of life.
I'm sure that, just the consistency of receiving these meals and maybe seeing the same person deliver it is you maybe, you develop a little bit of a relationship, a little socialization going on. And, if there is an issue, like maybe if they deliver food to someone who doesn't answer the door, there's also that. So I mean, it's important for the meals, but it also, I'm sure, has a lot of other purpose
Yes,
for the
yes,
Meals on Wheels. So you can, it's
uh-huh.
a safety net in a sense for some of the seniors. I mean, in a lot of ways,
Yes,
but
it is.
I wouldn't be
Rebecca,
surprised.
believe it or not, that's a critical piece of it. Our drivers have saved lives.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Our drivers get to know the person. They spend a few minutes with them every day. And, on multiple occasions, we've gotten calls that, Mrs. Jones isn't answering the door. I'm concerned about her. I can
Right.
see her through the window, and we've had the police do well checks, and people actually needed to go to the hospital. They were really sick.
Right, right. Yeah, that's it's so significant for so many reasons.
Yes,
We even say like even with our exercise program, something where, it affords socialization. I mean, even if you don't exercise, you can come to any of our classes and it offers you socialization and connection. And it's so important. And then, with the Meals on Wheels, you just have, a link to, all of your other services. So
mhm,
I mean, I kind of know, I mean, I know a lot about EAC, but with the services that you provide primarily for us in North Hempstead, what are you finding are like, I want to say the top three issues that you're confronted with seniors, even if it has to do with the pandemic, are you
mhm.
seeing changes, are you seeing
Yes.
things go different directions?
I think we're seeing more social isolation. There's been studies recently that said loneliness is, it's more or less the same as smoking cigarettes. I can't remember the exact number, but it's like, it affects you in such a terrible way that people are isolated, they're lonely, they've lost their connection, and especially our clients, like we have been doing contactless deliveries, and that's it's still a well check, but it's not the same as actually handing somebody the food and smiling at them without wearing a mask and ask it felt like we're seeing that a lot of people are just they were suffering from depression and anxiety, and they were just so isolated that it's going to take a while for things to get back to normal. Things are still not back to normal.
No, not yet.
Mm. You
Right.
know,
No.
in the interest of full disclosure, as you know, one of my granddaughters was a caseworker with Meals on Wheels, and she
Yes.
told me often, we've talked about it a lot, that the best part of the job for her wasn't a job, but the best part was the ability to speak to people who were, like you just described, lonely. And they really looked forward to talking to her, and she looked forward to talking to them. And it was a good, it was good for both, really, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're contributing to the world, if you will, in a positive
Yes.
way, and you're helping people who are, as you described earlier, no support system, um, just lonely.
Yes, yes. Our case managers are wonderful. They really work hard. They make a connection with the senior. They follow up. If they feel that something's not right, they always reach out. And as a team, we try to, um, you know, we follow up with people. We just don't leave them. Like if we think there's a problem, we always follow up and we do the best we can. And it's such a wonderful profession because I feel that we're really doing valuable work and we're making a difference, and it's you can't say that, and like a lot of people can't say that these days.
I grew up in the world when back in the New York area, particularly where in the late 40s, 50s, social work was considered like you were there to take care of people who had big problems and whatever. And the image was kind of, you know, medium. And
Mm-hmm.
that has totally changed as far as I'm concerned. I
That's
have the
right.
highest respect for people who are social workers and what they do and what they contribute. I don't think a lot of people really have any idea of how deeply involved people who are social workers get in helping other people.
That's
Um,
very true. And that's actually a really good point. We have to take a quick break. You've we'll continue with our guests, Mary Coyle and also Christine Weber from EAC. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse, co-host today and pretty much always. So we're talking with EAC, who provides a lot of services for all ages, human services, and also they are at one of our main partners with Project Independence in You. And though now for many years you've been providing our social work services, you've always been a partner over the years with the Respite program and just so many things. And we've always had this wonderful access to EAC and all the services. One of the things, Mary and Christine, that I was just thinking about when you were speaking, Mary, when you talk about, the loneliness aspect of seniors and probably the heightened amount of it during the pandemic, And then I'm thinking, you know what? It's like everybody was catapulted into that kind of, in some way or another, all ages. The kids that couldn't go to school and couldn't see their friends, and couldn't go to restaurants, and couldn't, whatever age, everybody was affected. And I experienced loneliness. I no one prepared for a pandemic, and what it kind of does, not just to, the world, but also to you personally. So it really was kind of shocking. you know um, there are so many seniors, unfortunately, that are isolated and lonely, and then the rest of the world kind of had a taste of that. So perhaps it's going to bring some empathy for those people who are, in that setting. But, when you talked about the loneliness with seniors, I'm curious to see if that's been a growing issue for, younger people who are in that, age group of seniors.
Mm-hmm. I would say, I mean, I have a son. He's going to be 15 now this year, and it was really, really difficult for him too. And I used to tell him stories about the seniors, and he actually could relate. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's intergenerational.
Yes.
Like he was lucky. Well, if you want to call it lucky, but I as a parent, it's very hard because he was on the computer a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He was interacting with his friends, and while I liked the social aspect of it, it was very, very difficult to put boundaries on teenagers and computers, and but at the same time he couldn't go out, and he couldn't see his friends, and it was very, very difficult. So I experienced it across the board, and for me too, I thought it was terrible. I was because I was worried about my family, my staff, the seniors. There was so much to juggle and to make sure that everybody had PPE, that they were safe, and
Mm-hmm.
that our main concern was is that people had food.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a basic human need. It actually it got to a point where it really got to the basics. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you think about food, shelter, that's where I really found it very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one of the things that hopefully came out of that is that people uh, gained a higher respect for people who work in a food store, who you sort of like walk
Yes.
by like they're
Hmm.
non-existent. People who stock the shelves and people who do things that sometimes people may have a negative attitude, frankly. I
Yes.
think some people do or did maybe a higher attitude. And I think that the human part of those people has become more relevant than it and it should have been before. But I think now, uh, I think some people learn some lessons. Hopefully, I think
Right.
as a country,
Yes.
frankly, I think
Hmm.
we've got pretty soft, to be blunt about it, and I think that sometimes out of adversity comes strength, and
That's so true.
you know,
Because they were the essential workers. All of a sudden, everybody was talking about essential workers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, Meals on Wheels, ambulance drivers. It wasn't Wall Street, or, it was
right.
supermarket. It was people who worked in supermarkets, who were driving people to the hospital, firefighters, police officers. They're all the essential workers.
Social workers.
Social workers, of course.
Yeah. It really is. It's I feel like Otto was saying. I loved what you were saying. I think so many, I want to say, good things. We talk about this a lot. That there are good things that we've learned um, because of the pandemic. I don't want to say good things came out of it, but we did learn a lot. Just like we talk of this about this a lot. We learned a lot during Sandy. You know. With especially with seniors, and we were able to utilize some of those things that we learned with seniors during the pandemic, which is checking in, making sure you know people who are on oxygen and things like that, knowing people who are your people that are isolated, and you know, there are a lot of things that we were able to bring in with the pandemic. But you know, so many things, like, I mean, you know, Otto, one of Otto's main topics, and you know, we're going to be talking a lot about this later, is really implementing, bringing technology into seniors' lives and homes, and getting them to, like, just even to be able to do our exercise classes on Zoom, our advisory meetings on Zoom, seeing people. So that kind of catapulted us a lot quicker into getting a lot more seniors on into technology. So yeah, there's, you know, good things that we learned, and how to implement things, and compassion for sure. You know, it's like you really had to have a lot of empathy and compassion for, you know, some, even a young person who is at a checkout and has to check out people at a supermarket or a discount store, wherever they are. Every single person that comes through that line, you know, they're potentially putting themselves in harm's way. So, you know, it's really, if you sit back and think about these, and definitely essential workers, yeah. So, you know, those nuggets that you get.
Rebecca, you made the mistake of using the word technology, all right? Uh, as you well know, and we're going to talk about it later, but I'm a very strong believer that a device like Alexa, I've got to be quiet, the concept of it in somebody's home, like with respite type things, I think you can, you know, it gives people an outlet, and also caregivers can take advantage of something like that device. I don't want to use the name because I have one right here. He'll be talking to me in a minute. But I do believe, like EAC, particularly as an organization, probably down the road has to look at stuff like adding that type of device for home care.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could speak to respite, you know, that, so the pandemic had a profound effect on caregivers too. And talk about isolation and loneliness. You know, they had no one to come in to help anymore. I mean, no one was going in anyone's homes. We had to stop our program. You know, we provide in-home respite care. We have companions going and visiting with a homebound older adult, to allow that caregiver to get out, to take a break, to breathe. I think we all, you know, can feel that experience of needing to get out, that life is coming at us, we need that break. And that was gone. And it wasn't just our service, which we provide respite a few hours a week, you know, one day, a few hours a week, but every other service they had. So we did a lot of other work trying to support them through that time, you know, calling, delivering PPE, but we were trying to work with them on technology too. And yeah, you know, having cameras in the home and other ways, other technical devices, you know, can help caregivers get a little break that way too. But, you know, we still feel we're so happy to be back. We've been back for a few months and we're just kind of rebuilding, quite frankly. But the need is there. And, you know, I think people are more aware even during the pandemic, because people don't want to ask for help. I mean, that's just, and I'm hoping people are listening to this, either if they don't recognize themselves and they don't think they need help, maybe somebody else who's you know, listening knows somebody who could use some help. And I think people did realize how important that opportunity to get out is for, you know, the caregivers.
Christine, you know, it's so funny. Not funny, but we talked about this a lot for years, that there are caregivers. People are caregivers, but don't identify themselves as a caregiver. They identify as the spouse. I'm not a caregiver. I'm just taking care of my husband. I'm taking care of my child. I'm taking care of my mother. You know, it's like I very early on with Project Independence, I remember speaking to a senior at where I work at CGM. They were at a group, and you know, she was just explaining to me how she's, you know, caring for her husband, and I said, oh, so you're his caregiver, you're his, and she's like, no, it's my husband. And I said, you know, how do you make people understand that, you know, they're a caregiver, and that there are services. I mean, these respite services that you provide are so important. And, it helps the caregiver, but it also, the person who they're caring for wants them to get a break. And, it gives them some kind of, feeling of like reassurance that, it's not, there's guilt involved and all that. How, how do you convince someone that they're a caregiver? It's kind of complicated.
It is, and it's hard, and that's why I say I hope sometimes
Right.
it's the other family member who has to convince them, and a lot of times what might convince them even a little more is because their identity is caregiver, even if they're not labeling it as such.
Right.
A lot of people who talk to us, they're more interested in the benefits it provides their loved one. Like we have people who will say, a lot of times there'll be a woman who might want a male respite companion because they feel their husband needs a buddy, and then again, in our program, we are only a few hours. We're not intrusive. It's a good way to start to probably, to get someone in the home, because generally with chronic illness in older adults, things usually get worse, and they're going to need some help at some point anyway. So, so then all of a sudden the companion comes in, we do introduce them ahead of time. So, they have kind of the right of refusal if it doesn't feel like the right fit, but we'll come in, play checkers, chess, and they see how great it is. And instead of, even focusing on what they're going to get out of it, that chance to get away, knowing that, kind of the world is coming into that person, makes a big difference.
I just read something, I think yesterday, the day before, whatever, about caregiver versus caretaker. And what came out of that for me was that people like spouses or whatever are caregivers. People who might be professional, who come in and help, home aides, whatever, might be caretakers. And I think if you think of it that way, it kind of puts you, if you're a caregiver, you're not a paid caretaker.
Right.
All right. You're a caregiver, you're giving. And that to me just struck a light bulb. I can't explain it. As to the difference. And the other word you just used fits in there too, as a companion. That's kind of like in between the caregiver and, it's.
Exactly. Well, we kind of call it people care, not personal care. The caretaker, a home health aide, personal care assistant, maybe giving more of that personal care and dispensing medication, helping with showering. That's not why our folks are there. They're really there, to provide safety, which gives that caregiver peace of mind. They know,
right.
I don't have, they're always hyper vigilant. And I know myself because I'm a caregiver as well, part-time, but you're always worried when you're not there. So they have that peace of mind, for the safety, but also that someone's there to try to make their help their loved one have the best day possible. I mean, that's really what we try to do. We try to plan the visits and know what they like and try to go from there.
If somebody's in North Hempstead and wants services like this, they can always call 311 and we can connect them to your services. But what about people who are not in North Hempstead? What's the best way? Can you provide a phone number or, the best way for people to get in touch with EAC?
Absolutely. And we are very accessible. And it's the same number we've had for at least the last 14 years. And that's 516-539-0150. And my extension is 218. And then extension 215 is our wonderful case manager, Deborah Marks. So either extension 218 or 215.
And I'm not sure if we covered this at all. I mean, I know with Project Independence, things are different in terms of if there is a cost, if people would use insurance, or how does that work?
Okay, so there is a cost. In comparison to other, services, it's relatively reasonable. It's between $5 and $12 an hour. I mean, that's the cost. And it's based on the income of the person who's at home, the care recipient. We don't base it on caregiver income. But thanks to this wonderful partnership we've had for however many years, I know it's at least 10, we are able to offer the service free in the town of North Hempstead, which is, rare and unusual and certainly very much appreciated by all the people that call us from there. So it's
Right.
great.
And those again, call 311 or 869-6311. It's important to know the phone number in case you're not near, you're out, like if you're a child or you're
Right.
not in North Hempstead, you can always dial 516-869-6311 to get to 311. If you're in North Hempstead, and we will get you to the social worker, and the social worker will certainly get you connected to the Respite program or whatever service you're calling about.
If somebody from what I understand, your support that you can provide is roughly 3 to 6 hours a week, I think.
2 to 6 hours. I would say the average visit's probably 3 hours
Right, and that's per week.
per week.
If somebody finds they really would like to get more than that, are there other ways you hook up with other people, other organizations that maybe provide additional services?
Sure. So there's a couple of other social services that do provide respite in home. Those are specific for people with dementia. I will say that our program, somebody who's home with any chronic illness is eligible as long as they're 60 years old and lives in Nassau County. But there are a couple definitely, and most of our clients actually do have dementia, but there are 2 other programs that offer respite service. After that, it would be also the ISA program that Mary oversees in our organization. It's a possibility they can get some home care through them. And then it really is private agencies. There's not that many options, honestly, for social service programs for in-home care.
I haven't had to do it, but I have witnessed people who have had to be caregivers for people with dementia, and it's pretty brutal.
It's hard.
It is.
I can't say too many good things about it, to be honest about it.
Yeah.
Well, we do have to take a very quick break. We'll continue with our guests, Mary Coyle and Christine Weber of EAC. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org, and we will be right back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio at 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse, who is our co-host extraordinaire, as always, really asking and great questions and just great topics. We're talking today with EAC Network and just getting a lot of information from Mary Coyle and also Christine Weber. Again, kudos to Christina for just always the best guests. And you guys are such an important guest for so many reasons, the services that you provide and just the partnership that we've had with you forever. I feel like we grew up together, learning a lot about aging in place. I mean, that's what Project Independence is about. And, it seems like, that's what all your services are all about. And of course, you guys have a bigger range and age of people that you service. But, I'm sure there's commonalities among some of the issues. But, I know, Otto, you were talking a little bit.
Yeah, I have basically two things. All right. There's 2 pieces to the puzzle as I see it. One is, how do you get people to take advantage of either program that you're talking about? And the other one is, how do you get people to implement the help if they want it? Drivers for Meals on Wheels, people who are willing to go to homes and give caregivers a break in the action. That sounds simple, but I don't think it is. I think that may be one of the biggest challenges of any of these things is, how do you get people to take advantage of it? and want to use it. And then once you get people to take advantage of it, where are the people that are going to help you give them the service that you're talking about? It's like
Yes.
there's no magic wand as I see it.
Yes. I think it's really we do sometimes come across this where we have people call in referrals, and when we follow up with the senior, they turn us down. They say, no, I don't need it, I don't want it. I think that people are reluctant to accept services because it's hard for them. Loss is very difficult. If you're not able to do things, or if you're not just saying, for example, you can no longer drive, or you can no longer cook meals, or do even basic things like shopping and laundry. It's very, very hard to say, I need this help. So our staff work really hard to explain the program, to make a home visit, to do an assessment, and to try and convince the person to try the service, to say, this would really improve your quality of life. And once the service is put in, and the ongoing relationship with the case manager, usually it works out really well. They'll often say, I'm so happy I got that service. It really makes a difference. And Christine, you might want to talk about your caregiver group.
Well, yes, and I would address the part of finding companions, and I'm glad Otto brought this up, because I did want to use today as an opportunity for anyone listening who would consider, serving as a companion with our program. It is, we're very flexible. We offer compensation. It's not a lot of time a week. It's 2 to 3 hours of doing something extremely purposeful. I would say that the companions that we find, and usually we find that, this is a great opportunity to find people, but it's also through places of worship, the library, we put flyers up. A lot of times we've had former caregivers come back to us. They know how hard it is, and they want to do this. We have people from all walks of life, retired business people, nurses, architects, home health aides. They just want to do something. Most of them are retired, although that's not a requirement for the job. But they're just all from the same place. They just care and have empathy. They say it's an honor to go into people's homes. They're being led into people's homes. So it's a challenge, though. It is a balancing act. I said, oh boy, if we get so many caregivers calling us from after today's program, I have to find some companions too. Because again, in the pandemic, we did lose a number, but we retained a lot. And the majority of them have been with us 5 years or more. So they like something about the program.
Sure. I think we found that, I know Christina's listening and she's right there, when we were doing our friends helping friends and friends talking to friends, and during the pandemic, and we wound up having so many people that wanted to volunteer, and almost not enough recipients.
Oh,
but,
wow, yeah. Yeah, that can happen. You have to get the right, you have to find them in the right way. You have to hit the right place, right. And also at the right time. I think the pandemic, again, as we talked about, made people feel, more caring about other people, maybe, right. Brought it out of them a little bit more. So, and we have had a number of people applying recently, some really nice people. So, we'll keep adding to the pool. And I do want to say, because people sometimes are nervous having someone come in their home. We do background checks. Right. We get references.
Good.
Again, the majority of them we know very well, and we do introduce them ahead of time as well. So just to make people feel a little bit secure about that.
Mary pointed out earlier something about the fact that we're far from the normal yet, and I think that's going to take time with things like this too. Like companions, some could be reluctant because we've been reluctant for the last 2 years to almost go anywhere without a mask, or there were all kinds of fears that were instilled in all of us. And I think it's going to take a little while yet for people to say the mask is gone and life is normal and on we go. And I'm going to volunteer to be a companion and now start going out again. I think
Right.
it's going to happen in not like one day, boof. It's going to take time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely.
Yes, I agree, Otto. And all EAC staff who are doing home visits are still required to wear masks because we just feel that it's not over yet. We have to be careful. We have to try and do the best we can to keep it safe for people. So that might give some people comfort knowing that the companions and the staff are still wearing masks and wash their hands and using sanitizer.
Yeah,
Right.
my wife had a knee replacement, and as a result, she has to go to physical therapy. And we were there yesterday. And when you go to physical therapy, you have to wear a mask, anything medically connected. But they told her there that they believe that March 18th, and that is not official at all, but March 18th, medical facilities may be able to stop having the requirement that you have to wear a mask,
Oh,
which would
wow.
be a good thing.
That's like almost 2 years to the day
Yes.
that,
Yeah, that's right.
it all started, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, to me, it started the day before St. Patrick's Day. I was at a place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy
That's
just
right.
took this pub over 2 weeks before. He had it all
Aw.
stocked up with corned beef and cabbage for the next day. And
Wow.
he got the word that he had to close that night, the night before St. Patrick's Day at 7 p.m. and shut the place down. And I have no idea if he survived or not. I haven't been back there. But, that was brutal. But I do remember that because of that. It was like the day before St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And
Aw.
I remember coming to work and our commissioner, Kimberly, saying to us, it may be a little bit longer than a week or two. Just bring home whatever you think you might need. And I'm like, no, we're not going to be that long. But yeah, we just brought home our everything anyway. And, we know what happened, and I know we talked about this too a couple of times. Like, remember the first few months, what was happening with the kids too. No proms, no graduation.
Yes.
I mean, it was so unbelievable.
I
Like,
know.
it just really is.
well, in the beginning, you talk about Meals on Wheels, and then let's bring that into our own homes. And you couldn't go to the supermarket, so now you had to learn how to use Instacart or
Yes.
something else, and you
Right.
had to get up at midnight to get your name on the list for delivery because
Yeah.
the delivery was like 10 days out, and they had you talk about the unsung heroes, the people who were delivering for people like Instacart.
That's right.
Right.
You forget all that stuff, but it was there. I remember, trying to get an order in for food, and even that was a challenge.
Yeah. Took a week or two at some point,
Yeah,
back
yeah.
early on. Yeah.
And
So,
I remember at the very beginning, our caseload more than doubled for home delivered meals because we didn't have any criteria anymore. People couldn't get to the supermarket. So we were, the regulations, we were told by the Nassau County Office for the Aging that if anybody over 60 has difficulty shopping, that they automatically qualify for home delivered meals. So I remember scrambling. We needed drivers. We had
I
help
remember
from,
that. Yeah.
remember that? Yeah.
Yes.
From the Red Cross, we had Red Cross drivers. It was just, when I look back, I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
Are the drivers volunteers or are they?
No, we actually have paid staff now for driving. We
Right.
used to have volunteers, but it was just too complicated. We had to stop the groups and now it's paid staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, to kind of quick question. So your agency is funded. Are there contributions that people, if they're
Yes,
interested in
yes,
that, how
yes.
could someone, if they're interested in, a contribution, get in touch with you? Is it the same phone number that Christine gave us before, or?
You mean if somebody would like to make a donation?
Yes.
Or yes. So if they go on the EAC website, it's EAC EAC
Network?
Dash
network.org.
org.
Yeah, they could actually donate right on the website, or they could, if they wanted to just send a check, they could send a check to EAC, and
Okay.
that's the address is 99 Quentin Roosevelt Boulevard, Garden City, and that's 11530.
They
Terrific.
still
So-
take checks?
We do.
Absolutely.
Yes. And just I just want to bring up about the food quickly. There's no cost for home delivered meals, but there's a voluntary contribution. And if somebody's on the program, they will get a monthly letter, stating the cost of the meals. And if they can afford to contribute, that means that we can put more people on the program. But technically, there's no cost. If people can't afford the meals, that's okay. They
Right.
don't, but we try to encourage people to make a voluntary contribution.
Right.
But don't
So,
be embarrassed if you can't afford to do it.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Your
Right.
agency just does such terrific things. So, I mean, it's March. You guys also had a move recently. It's a lot of fun and exciting things are happening. Social Work Month, and so what do you do to celebrate your social workers in March?
Um, honestly, that's something that we could improve on. It's been so difficult with the move and with everything going on that we really haven't celebrated it. But we did have a lovely celebration yesterday where some of the social workers came over. We had lunch. Actually, Mo's in Garden City.
Oh, nice.
Gave us a lovely lunch, and we had a ribbon cutting ceremony that was really nice. Officials from Nassau County and all of our staff was invited, and that was really nice.
It was great.
But next year we will certainly do more, and I'm going to try and put something together for the social workers, because our social workers they're just wonderful. They provide fabulous services. They're dedicated. They care about their clients and the seniors, and they really deserve to be celebrated.
Yeah,
And they're not becoming millionaires.
Exactly.
I wanted to also mention something just to get it in. We don't have a lot of time, but I know that you provide nutrition education and food services for people living with HIV and AIDS.
Yes, we do.
So, could you just tell us a little bit about that program?
Yes. We have a program in Nassau and in Suffolk County. Actually, it's the only program in Nassau that provides food and nutrition to people living with HIV and AIDS. And it's a fabulous program because we provide them with food and food education. They get food education. It can be about an hour or an hour and a half. Right now, we're doing it by Zoom, but we have community nutrition educators, and we have nutritionists in the community that provide these services, and we teach people how to shop correctly and eat nutritious meals, because as you know, people with HIV, they have very compromised immune systems, and it was very, very difficult during COVID. We had to basically shut down our program, but the recipients get a food voucher every month mailed to them, and it's $100 food voucher, and that ensures that they can eat healthy for the month. We also provide the nutrition education and support services, like if somebody needed food stamp applications, any referrals for housing or mental health, any services. We have staff that will refer them for services. And it's a really wonderful program.
I want to thank both Mary Coyle and Christine Weber for joining us today. We love you guys. EAC is wonderful. You can always call 311 to get the information to what Otto was talking about, the build, the locations, the phone number, any way to get in touch with EAC, we can definitely get you in touch. Again, thank you so much.